Yo, what up? It's Tremayne from Stay Out Late, and you're watching the Studio One show. Ah.
I appreciate you taking the time out to be on Studio One.
Hell yeah, of course, man.
All right, let the people know your name and what you're doing right now.
So my name's Tremayne. I'm a part of a music group from Toronto called Stay Out Late. Um, it's funny. It never gets easier to like answer this question. I do a shit ton. I'm originally from Brampton, and I came to Toronto probably like 6 or 7 years ago now, and I came specifically for music. But like 6 years ago, funny enough, like I feel like everybody there wasn't like an infrastructure as much as it has grown in the last 6 years. So it's like there were so many moments of you basically having to you're asking for like these people, so you're like, yo, I need this, I need that, and like who's throwing the events, who's you know what I mean, who's like booking these like shows for people, blah blah blah, and like you notice that none of that's around, so either you just sit and wait for somebody to do it or you do it yourself. So like in the last 6 years I've become an event producer. I curate art exhibits, I model a lot, I host shows, and but like obviously all of that doubles back to like doing music, so I'm a musician first.
And before we get into all of those things, let's take it back to Brampton. Talk about what it was like growing up over there, and talk about your early music influences and growing up there in general.
Growing up in Brampton was different. It's very at least how I kind of grew up, because like we weren't like the richest, you know what I mean, and we were like, my family was really focused on like sports. My brother, he's a professional soccer player. He plays in the UK. He plays for a team called Cardiff, but he also plays for like the international, like Canada international team. But we all kind of started in soccer, played like a bunch of other sports, basketball, baseball, blah blah blah, and his dad, my stepdad, was a dance hall DJ. So like we had a lot of parties at our space, at our home. So it was just like a lot. I had a lot of adults around me all the time, but as kids, like we were just out 24/7, like 8 a.m. to like 9, 10 p.m. We're outside just doing everything we can. Like we loved the outdoors and shit. And I mean, yeah, other than that, it was kind of just like growing up in a small town. It was
And like
chill.
who were the artists that were like popping or on the radio and in that time frame? Who were you listening to?
Shit, man. I mean, when I first started listening to like, or the first thing that I can think of when it comes to music and things that affected me was like R&B.
Yeah.
So like I listened to a lot of like Drew Hill. I listened to a lot of like Blackstreet, Janet Jackson, shit like that, and like that was like my vibe for the longest time. I honestly thought I was gonna be an R&B singer.
It's never too late.
It was funny because like my bubble got burst from my mom. So like I was probably like in like grade 2 maybe, and I was like, yo mom, I'm gonna go do like the talent show. And she's like, what are you gonna do? Like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm gonna sing.
Yeah.
She's like, you can't sing. And I'm like, nah, I can sing. So she like, my aunt was there at the time, and they brought me to the living room, and they sat down on a couch and looked at me and they said, okay, sing what you're gonna sing. And I sang a Drew Hill song.
Do you remember which one it was?
A song called Beauty. It's like it's a big song. It's like one of their like album cuts that like I don't think it ever like came out as like a single, but like everybody knows it. It's like it's that joint, especially for women in that joint. But I sucked. So from that point I kind of like stopped doing that, but I got into I've always been a writer, you know what I mean? Like I wrote short stories, I wrote poems, stuff like that. And that is kind of what kept me like connected to music in a sense, I feel like, because like I feel like I found a lot of inspiration from like the music that I was listening to and stuff like that in regard to just being able to know how to convey myself. Because other than that, I was like a pretty quiet kid. Like,
It was your outlet.
yeah.
Yeah. And so when you made the decision to go to Brampton from Toronto to pursue music,
To go, yeah.
was it like a hard decision, or do you think back on it, I guess?
No, it wasn't. Cause like for me, like it was really quick to understand that I wasn't going to be able to be successful in Brampton.
Yeah.
Just because like, again, it was like one of those things where like everything that I was asking for wasn't there. And that was like the beginning of me knowing that like know where I went, know where I was going to go would have the answers. Cause like I thought that Toronto had all the answers. And then coming to Toronto and Toronto having no answers for me, I was kind of like, oh shit. Okay.
Is there a given the past 6 years, was there like a defining moment, I guess, when you realized Toronto wasn't what you had imagined it was in Brampton?
What it was, which is like, basically we like, again with the whole like, how do I explain it? So when we came to Toronto, or when I came to Toronto, it was kind of really just like, yo, I had performed at one show in Toronto that was like,
sorry to cut you off. Do you remember what the year was?
2012 maybe.
12. Just want like a timeline.
Yeah. So I had performed at like, there was this open mic that was happening at the time called Big Ticket. That was like the show that changed a lot. But before that, I had performed at one show, and it was at this spot. I can't remember what the name of the spot is, but it was at Bloor and Bathurst, the spot, and it was like above like a pizza, I think. But it was like a dope venue in my opinion. I haven't been there in ages, so I don't really know. But like to me at that time, it was like a dope venue, and like we had this performance that was just like huge. And like I remember it being a big thing for the fact that like in my music career, the way my music career kind of went was like it started in high school. In high school, I was like the anti everything.
Yeah.
So like I got into a lot of beefs, and you know what I mean? I was like that. I was like kind of hated, kind of like picked on, stuff like that, but like I kind of enjoyed it.
You stayed true to yourself.
You know what I mean? Like I was like, yeah, whatever, I'm gonna do what I want to do. But like there was this like transition nearing the ending of like high school where kind of like I kind of like started turning people. So before people would be like, yo, he can't rap, he's shit, and then by the end of it, it was kind of like, oh, okay, like we got to back off a little bit, like he actually has it. And then coming out of high school and doing that show was like huge for me, but did nothing. So like you kind of like start going into this situation where like you're doing these shows and you're like, this is my big break, and nothing happens, you know what I mean? So then it transitions to this show, Big Ticket, where like we like were opening quote unquote for Chaclair. But we were actually after him. Chaclair was headlining and we performed after him.
And you're saying we, so at the time you Stay Out Late was...
Yeah, so Stay Out Late used to be called Waffle Beats and used to be called Waffles and Beats and used to be called something before that. Shout out Dusty Loops. Shout out Happy. Shout out Noise, Be Magic, Scotty, who used to be called Spooks. But anyways, so at that time, like I've always been a dude who like I strongly believe in like community. I strongly believe in like having a good camp with you, stuff like that. So it's like I always keep my people close to me. So whenever I'm performing, I bring my people out. But anyway, so we do that show, and like at first we thought it was a setup because we're like, yo, nobody's gonna stay after the headliner. It doesn't even make any sense. You know what I mean? Especially because it's Chaclair, blah. But the spot was packed. We ourselves brought out like a shit ton of people as well. Like that was like the beginning of when I learned like the importance of like promo. But anyway, so we bring these people out and like we have this show, and the show goes crazy. We do a bunch of shit to like get everybody to stay in the building. Like I had hit up Pizza because I was like, yo, we got to get something to like give away at the show to get people hyped, to keep people there. So hit up Pizza, hit up a bunch of places, but Pizza is the only one that hit us back and give us like 4 $25 coupons. So we're like giving that shit out. We had shirts printed, blah, blah, blah. And we're doing all this stuff and getting everybody hyped and trying to get people to stay. And then the show happens. It's dope. Everybody loved it. It was like a crazy set. And we were like, all right, cool. Like, so many things are going to happen after this, you know what I mean? Because like there were so many people that were in the building that see this that like, you know, are going to like act. And the one thing that did happen was we did solidify ourselves as like a dope group of performers, and everybody talked about that, but nobody really did anything, you know what I mean? Outside of like we were like pretty well booked for that year, but like at that time was also such a struggling infrastructure that like none of it was paid. You know what I mean?
And yeah, talk about the infrastructure at that time, and talk about it now.
So the infrastructure at that time was really just like Drake hadn't even really fully blown yet. There was like no really talk of any like predecessor, you know what I mean? And like it was just like a bunch of people who kind of just were like waiting for him to like get to that point where all eyes would be fully on us, you know what I mean? Like it was just a bunch of people like super excited, artists feeling like there was more like opportunities for them, and everybody kind of getting hype at what he was doing but not really knowing what he was doing or like the steps that it took. So just thinking that like because he did it, now everything's gonna come back to us, you know what I mean? And that bubble bursted pretty quick. But then like fast forward and seeing how quickly everybody kind of like understood, they're like, oh, okay, this isn't gonna happen unless I make it happen. And how many things, like for instance, like these like creative spaces that are popping up like crazy, and being able to create places where like you can actually make everything come true, you know what I mean? Or you can meet the people that you need to be able to expand on like the things that you need to get to where you need to go.
And like, given like everything you said so far, how important do you think it is to like self-motivate and have this drive? Because it's clear to me like you've been through so much in your career, but you still have the sense of love and joy in what you're doing. Like how important it is to, like even with the crew that you have, Stay Out Late, like how motivated are you guys to keep pushing even though there's a ton of obstacles that you guys seen and continue to see around you?
Crazy motivated, man. Like it's okay, I'll be honest, it's tough, right? Because it's like, it's one of those things where we're in a career where there's no structure. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, like you have a boss and your boss is telling you if you hit these quotas, you're going to get promoted. You know what I mean? Or whatever the case may be. It's like, yo, you're sitting there every day and you wake up and it's like, what do I got to do today? And it's really like reliant on just some random stroke of luck happening where you've done all the right things and put yourself in a position where somebody's like, that dude has it, and spreads you to the masses. Like it's multiple people, you know what I mean? But it's like that consistency that you have to do day in, day out in regard to just like, you know, recognizing other people in their art forms and being able to like, you know, support them to gain support to continue to grow this like community that will then like put you on this pedestal and be like, yo, this is who's next. You know what I mean? It's just, it's hard, very, very important. And I can't even tell it. Like, I wish there was like something I could say in regard to just like something that can keep you motivated, but there isn't. Most every day I probably more so wake up like, damn, like another day.
because it comes from inside, and you can't, you can tell like somebody to do everything in their power to like continue on, but if they hit a wall that they mentally have in their head, they'll just eventually stop.
Yeah.
So I was watching, you probably don't remember this, but I was watching an interview of yours, or I think it was a clip actually. It was when you went to Atlanta. Talk about going to Atlanta for that festival. I can't remember what that year was.
Yeah.
But talk about going to Atlanta and talk about how important it is for someone. You went from Brampton to Toronto. Talk about how important it is to go to different places for your music career to like gain more perspective.
Atlanta was pretty crazy. I can't say it was like the first. I think I'd been before that to like New York and a couple of other places. I'd been to the UK, but like Atlanta, and specifically at that time, and I think that was like my first festival. But like the idea of a festival is mad dope because it's like, yo, we're getting all of these big artists, and like all of their fan base is going to be there, and all of their representatives are going to be there, and people who like are coming up are like, it's just like a fucking melting pot of all of these like people who are really like on point and doing what they need to do. And like, I feel like the dope thing about that, like outside of any other space where people can just kind of like walk in, is that like knowing that you have to pay to be there, or knowing that you have to find a way to get like media accredited or whatever to be there. It's like you have to go that extra step, so you know you're at least a little bit more motivated than somebody else. You know what I mean? And like the way that the states operates, and specifically Atlanta, in regard to how everybody really sees the benefit of like building that community, it was unreal. It was definitely one of those things that kind of like, it's those moments, if I had to say anything, it's like those moments are definitely the moments that like allow me to stay motivated, because it's like I think about it, you know what I mean? It's like I remember having that, and it gets me excited. It gets me like, yo, I know that there are people there that can make this happen. All I have to do is continue to try and like find all of them, you know what I mean? But in regard to answering specifically the question of travel, crazy important. Like, and I won't even say that it has to actually be physically traveling, but even getting on the internet and knowing what you're actually doing on there, like it's not posting a picture on fucking Instagram every day. It's like actually being like in like blog communities, and like, you know, like figuring out who you are, and like who you are musically, or who you are as a person, and connecting to communities that connect to that will eventually support your art form, because of the fact that like it's like they like what you like, you know what I mean? And they understand you, and they actually like care to support what you're doing, you know what I mean? Like I feel like a lot of right now, because of like influencers and shit like that, it's like everybody kind of like is in this place where they're like, oh, it's so easy, like all she does is like post cute pics all day, and she's you know what I mean? So then you're kind of just like, all right, I'm gonna try and do it, and nothing happens, and then you get depressed. But it's like you're not seeing the backstory, and also it's kind of like it's tough to really tell that backstory.
Yeah, because I think for a lot of things, there's like the surface level to it, and no one really sees like the back end hard work that goes into what's actually really going on.
Yeah.
But on that note, talk about the new records that you've been releasing recently, and talk about the upcoming shows that you have. And on that note too, like talk about your connection with like the Academy Presents, and like hosting with them, and the community involved with that.
Shit. So it's been my music career is crazy, for the fact that like I've been making music for like a minute, and but like releasing has always been this thing for me. Like basically I've released probably 4 projects. One was like a mixtape that I actually like burned CDs for, or maybe two were a mixtape that I burned CDs for. One exists on SoundCloud, and the other kind of like exists between SoundCloud and Spotify. But all of these like projects didn't come out until I knew that it was like 100% perfect, from the first 2 from a musical standpoint and a creative standpoint, and then the other 2 from like more of a business standpoint, in regard to just like reaching like, I kind of call it like a save point, you know what I mean? Where it's just like, okay, I've learned as much as I feel like I'm confident about at this threshold, and I'm going to release this to express that, to be able to explore something else, you know what I mean? And kind of like encapsulate a time period. But it's like that has like hindered me from releasing a lot of music for people to kind of like grasp as an artist, and has changed like my identity as a musician more into being connected to like my brand. So it's like following who I am. Like, for instance, my Instagram name is Eldati, and it means life, death, and all things in between. So it's like literally, I don't know how many years it's been, but since I've had Instagram, when I decided that I was going to create an Instagram account, I was like, it's going to cover everything. It's basically going to be a public journal, you know what I mean? But like really leaning into that and reflecting on like what's going on, and being able to be a space for me to like, yo, when I look back at my posts, it's like, what was I thinking on this day? You know what I mean? And being able to be like, oh shit, and like catch myself and bring me back to a place that I can continue to move forward. So basically it's kind of like I've created a space where like now I'm a brand instead of just an artist, which I feel like in 2019 is mad important because like, I don't know, everybody's starting to say it. Like Childish Gambino had that line where he's like, he's talking about rapping. He's like, they think it's a milli, it's really 100.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's just like, yo, there's not a lot of money in just rapping anymore. You know what I mean?
And
Like,
yeah, he has his line is he has one where it's like Renaissance man with the Hollywood buzz.
yeah.
Because he does a multitude of things.
Yeah, you
And-
know what I mean? And like that's the only way you can really get it because like nobody's trying to give you everything to do one thing anymore. You know what I mean? Unless you're like you have like a history of it. Unless you're like a fucking Smith, you know?
Yeah. and on the note of doing a multitude of things, Academy Presents and being a host.
So yeah, with that, so Academy Presents, it's this amazing platform that is run by Jesse Otaki, who is connected to like a lot of the festivals that happen, like Manifesto, North by Northeast, I think maybe even CMW, if I'm not mistaken, but like, oh, and Unity Fest. But like basically he's just always been like a dope dude who has been willing to do a bunch of things in the back end to create spaces for people to be able to express themselves.
Yeah, he's an
you know what I
amazing
mean?
person.
But the hustle has been around for I think this is like the 40th or something. Like it's been a minute, and they do it every other month, and I have performed on it probably like 4 times.
Yeah, I've seen you one time.
Yeah, and like it's always been just like a dope platform for the fact that like he does put a lot into making it a thing that people are excited to go to. You know what I mean? And then he does do well in being able to pick talent that's not just like, you know, anybody who picked up a mic. It's really people who are like passionate and creative and like talented. You know what I mean? So it's like it's a one of my favorite places to like really perform, and the opportunity arose for me to actually be like the host for it, and I kind of like jumped at it. I was like, yeah, this is a good fit. Like I also am passionate about like presenting people and allowing them to feel confident when they take the stage. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's one of the benefits from doing everything that I do is like it all comes from the desire to create something for the music or the music career that I want. So it's like, yeah, I'm not going to go up there and host shitty and give somebody like a terrible like introduction because like I know that could be me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You put your
exactly.
You put your heart in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's that. In the event production side, I used to do it a lot more in regard to like I used to work with Community 54, and we used to throw like fashion pop-ups at the end of every month called Finale Friday. So like we take local clothing brands and we put them in the store, and we'd have this like party, and I'd get like sponsors and it'd be shit like that. And that was like dope for a long while until we got shut down by the cops. Yeah, SOPs are trash. Anyways, so there was that. We've thrown showcases, stay out late for a minute, and like that was also something that was like huge. Is that like one of the biggest shows for me in my career was a show that we threw at the Rivoli, and that also was like something that came out of necessity. It was like, yo, I'm not doing it. I don't want to do any more open mics. I don't want to do any more like shows where it's like a bunch of artists. I kind of want to be able to curate it and have it be like a concentrated, focused group of artists that like I think are on my caliber and that will be able to put on like this crazy show that people will remember forever. And that the first one that we threw, I think the first one that we threw was called Full Circle. It was an event called Full Circle, and it was me, Scotty, this artist called Jape that I don't think he's an artist anymore, Sean Leon, and G Miller were all on the show. And it was like just the wildest thing. We packed out Rivoli, like uncomfortably packed out Rivoli. And like everybody just had these crazy sets, and like it was insane just sitting there just like watching all these people fucking like tear down Rivoli, and then get up there and hold it down as well, you know what I mean? And like having those moments. But it's just like, it's also funny to like know how hard it is to have that happen, especially now because it's like everybody has a fee now, and there's no like, I feel like everybody's trying to get ahead, and nobody's trying to just like get together and make these moments that will create the moment for everybody to get ahead. You know what I mean? It's a tough one. But then to music, I have this year released 2 singles. The first one was called Way Too Much, and it was with my homie Kill Montana, who's originally from Ireland but now lives in Toronto. And the second one that I released a couple months back is called Kidz Bop 41. And that, well, both of them cracked 50. I think Way Too Much is at like 73K right now, something like that. And then Kidz Bop cracked 50 this week. So like, I'm hyped for that.
Yeah.
But again, it's just like a lot of grind in the back end. Like for the last maybe year and a half to 2 years, I stopped doing music. Like I stopped creating to an extent to really focus on like the business side of things and understanding like, okay, when you're releasing, like how do you get in contact with the blogs and the fucking like the media people, and being able to like get it from here to the States to like the UK and everything like that, you know what I mean? And like it's frustrating because like all you really want to do is do music, like all I really want to do is be an artist, but like there isn't enough people taking on the roles like you're taking on, and like a lot of people that I know are taking on, to be able to allow the artists to just be artists, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's why I think it's important too to have like a platform like this to highlight artists out of town and in town. But to put it to like a final note, like how do you envision the rest of the year for you? And not only is next year a new year, it's a new decade. How do you envision that as well?
That's crazy.
It is crazy. 2020.
2020.
That's intense.
This year has been like super dope for the fact that like with these releases and with like a lot of the work that I've done, like just being out socially and being present in a lot of people's lives, it's like I've had a lot of opportunities come to me that I didn't think that would like happen, which has been dope. I've been getting on stages like crazy. I mean, Saturday I'm doing a show at the Garrison. It's me, Ty Sinaj, Shiloh, Dead Very Soon, and Ojo. And like, I don't know, it's to me, it's really like, my theory is like, so it's this thing that I call Groundhog Day. You ever watch Groundhog Day, Bill Murray?
No, but I know it's a movie.
Okay, so like, I feel like the way that life works, like in a sense, is that you kind of get to a point and you'll repeat the same things at that point until you figure out how to get to the next level. And I feel like for me, this show reminds me of that first show at the Rivoli, where it's like you keep, I've been doing the same things. I've been trying to figure out like, okay, how do you get to the point where it's like, okay, now I'm rocking like the mod clubs and the Velvet Undergrounds and the Danforth music halls and stuff like that. Like how do I get from this level to this level? And I feel like I'm at that point. So 2020 to me is going to be proving that I am at that point and getting to those stages. And then just traveling more. Like this year I got to perform for Pop Montreal, and that was like a really dope experience for the fact that it's like, again, in that festival setting, being around a group of people that all are passionate about what they're doing. You know what I mean? Next year I want to be able to do a festival in the UK, so I'm gunning for a couple. I'm gunning for Leeds Reading, Global 12, or there's one more that I was thinking about. I was trying to gun for, shoot, what's it called again?
There's Lovebox out there, I think.
Lovebox?
I think that's one.
I haven't heard of it.
I only know it because I think Frank Ocean did it one time. And I think Gambino did as well.
Okay.
And then I think like there's
I'm
wireless.
gonna have to add that to the list.
Yeah,
There's wireless, and then there's that one. Oh man.
Hyde in the Park?
No. It's like when I say it, you'll know. I have it like written down somewhere.
Glastonbury, or is that?
No, Glastonbury is
That's
like,
like
if
Ireland.
I did Glastonbury, yeah, that'd be some crazy shit.
Anything is possible.
Yeah. It is. Sorry, Belgium.
It's definitely gonna be one of those things when you say it, and I'm just like, oh,
Damn. Oh, Notting Hill Fest.
Nottingham.
Notting Hill, I want to friggin' do.
Alright.
But yeah, like definitely, I think the UK is like gonna be a highlight. Getting back to the States and doing A3C again, because I was supposed to actually do it. I think it was like 2 years ago. So that the first A3C that I went to was maybe 4 years ago now, and then skip a year, and then I was supposed to perform at the one 2 years after that. But that was when we were going through that phase where like they were talking about actually legalizing weed. And I started working at a dispensary and I got busted. And they're like, bro, if you try and leave the country and like the States decides that they want to be like dicks, like you'll be banned for 4 or 5 years. So I was like, I'm not going to take it. I'm going to wait till like the court case goes through. And the court case went through. So now I'm cleared and I'm ready. I'm good to go back to the States. So like I want to go back to the States now.
Yeah.
But like traveling is definitely like 100% something. Like I feel like 2020 is going to be really big for being able to solidify that fan base and that identity that people can really be like, yo, that's Trey, you know what I mean? Get myself a couple security guards.
Man, anything is possible, man.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I can't thank you enough for coming to Studio One to have a conversation with me.
No doubt, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're definitely a very important figure in Toronto, and the idea that you continue to push community and helping others is incredible.
Yeah.
So, man, thanks again for coming through.
No doubt. I'm like, I'm super excited for you, man. Like I'm 100% a huge supporter. Love your writing, so I hope that you're still going to continue to write. But like this as becoming a platform and being able to have a lot of artists come through here and rival Beats One.
Yeah, man. Toronto. This
gonna be huge.
This is my hope.
Hell yeah.
Toronto's version of Beats One.
Hell yeah.
Let's put Toronto on the map.
Hell yeah. Also shout out New Currency on this shit.
Yeah, shout out New Currency. Shout out New Currency. Shout out anything Toronto.
Hell yeah.